Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, protests are happening at immigration enforcement facilities across the country. Officers resort to deploying tear gas and arresting protesters. The latest on President Trump's effort to deploy the National Guard. President Donald Trump saluting the Navy in Norfolk, Virginia this afternoon. That's as naval troops and Gold Star families honor the Navy's 250th anniversary. The State Department just released the 2025 Trafficking in Persons report. A trafficking investigator and a survivor join us to unpack the report and what needs to be done. A doctor of traditional Chinese medicine shares details about the link between the body's energy flow and mental and physical health. More on why he calls modern depression medication a Band-Aid solution. And Earth's gentle giants are getting a helping hand from science. Find out how a new vaccine developed at Chester Zoo can prevent a deadly disease that kills endangered elephants.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Protests at immigration and customs enforcement facilities across the country continue. Law enforcement arrested multiple people over the weekend. The Trump administration is facing legal challenges in its bid to deploy the National Guard. NTD's Ariane Pozdar has the summary.
Trespassing on federal property is subject to arrest.
Protesters once again gathered outside ICE headquarters in South Portland on Saturday evening. They hurled insults at various law enforcement personnel who pushed the crowd back. President Trump recently decided to deploy National Guard troops to Portland to protect ICE facilities. He commented on the situation on Sunday.
Portland is burning to the ground. It's insurrectionists all over the place. It's Antifa. And yet the politicians who are petrified. Look, the politicians are afraid for their lives. That's the only reason that they say, like, there's nothing happening. And you've seen it. The place is burning down and they pretend like there's nothing happening.
But then on Saturday, a judge in Oregon temporarily blocked the administration from deploying troops in Portland. District Judge Karen Immergut, who was appointed by Trump during his first term, explained her decision, saying this country has a long-standing and foundational tradition of resistance to government overreach, especially in the form of military intrusion into civil affairs. The White House Chief of Staff responded, writing, "Legal insurrection. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not an Oregon judge." A spokesperson said the administration expects the decision to be vindicated by a higher court. Tensions were high during the Portland protests on Saturday. Officers carried paintball guns and deployed tear gas to protect themselves amid the chaos. They arrested 7 protesters. President Trump on Saturday reportedly also authorized the deployment of 300 National Guard members to Chicago. Governor J.B. Pritzker criticized the idea, saying it was not a serious effort to protect public safety. The White House responded on Saturday, saying the troops are needed to counter riots and lawlessness. On Sunday, Trump highlighted ongoing public safety issues in Chicago.
There's no way somebody can say that things are wonderful in Chicago. Almost 55 people over a short period of time have been murdered in Chicago, have been shot.
And big tech is also getting involved. Apple says it removed apps from its App Store that alert users to ICE agents in their area. Apple reports having been contacted by the Trump administration. According to the Justice Department, the apps could increase the risk of assault on agents. Google also removed such apps for policy violation, but the company said it was not approached by the DOJ before taking the action. Ariane Pozdar, NTD News.
And just in California, Governor Gavin Newsom says he plans to sue the White House. That's to block the Trump administration from deploying 300 of California's National Guard troops to Portland. In other news, a shutdown in Washington, a breakthrough on drug prices, and an executive order on pediatric cancer this week brought high-stakes decisions and sharp divisions. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your White House week in review.
The federal government shut down after lawmakers failed to agree on a spending deal, sparking finger-pointing across party lines.
If the Democrats did not vote to shut down the government, we would not be standing up here talking about layoffs today.
If this shutdown continues, this will be on the Republicans. They prioritize taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens.
The political leadership, not every Democrat nationwide, but the political leadership of their party has got it into their heads that the only way to be compassionate is to be compassionate to illegal aliens rather than American citizens.
Not $1 of Medicare, Medicaid, or ACA is allowed to go to undocumented immigrants.
President Trump signed an executive order to harness American AI innovation to unlock cures and prevention strategies for pediatric cancer.
No family should have to fight cancer with outdated tools or without access to the very best science.
16-year-old Carolyn Hendricks, a pediatric bone cancer survivor, praised the move.
What you're doing today, Mr. President, means that kids like me will get better options and so much more hope for the future.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and President Trump addressed America's top generals and admirals in Quantico, Virginia, vowing sweeping changes to the military.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions.
These people don't have uniforms, but we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly.
President Trump made a deal with Pfizer that could bring down drug prices. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. credited Trump for his doggedness and perseverance.
This is something Democrats have wanted for 20 years. Republicans have wanted for 20 years. Everybody said they're going to do it. Nobody has even taken a step towards doing it.
According to an HHS report last year, Americans currently pay nearly 3 times more for brand-name medications than places like Canada or Europe. Transport Secretary Sean Duffy had the historic Christ on the Water painting moved to the basement under the Biden administration, put back to its place of prominence at the U.S. Merchant Marines Academy.
Could we bring Jesus up from the basement? Let him rise!
Pope Leo XIV suggested this week that those who support what he called the inhuman treatment of immigrants in the United States may not be pro-life. The White House said such inhumane treatment is not occurring under the Trump administration.
There was, however, significant inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the previous administration as they were being trafficked and raped and beaten.
Federal agents launched operations in Memphis this week, making 53 arrests in the first 2 days and seizing 20 illegal firearms, including 3 at a murder suspect's home.
The idea that there is a square inch of block in this city where a citizen doesn't feel safe is unacceptable.
If you touch a law enforcement officer, it is a crime and you are going to jail.
More on crime, FBI Director Kash Patel gave an update on the 3-month Operation Summer Heat, where the FBI teamed up with local law enforcement. The action netted over 8,600 arrests and 2,300 guns seized, and almost 45,000 kilos of cocaine and over 420 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill 50 million Americans, were taken off the streets, speaking with Armstrong Williams.
We have to attack the criminal enterprises where they start and their entire spiderweb of networks across the country.
And new U.S. tariffs on pharmaceuticals, trucks, and home goods took effect this week. President Trump says they'll strengthen domestic industry and protect American jobs. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The Treasury Department is considering minting a $1 commemorative coin featuring President Trump's image. The design is in celebration of the nation's 250th birthday. U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach reposted a draft image of the coin and wrote that the first drafts were real. The draft images show Trump's side profile on the front with Liberty at the top and In God We Trust on the bottom. The dates 1776 and 2026 are also featured. On the reverse is an image of Trump following his assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, with the words "Fight, fight, fight." It is against the law to display the image of a sitting president or a living former president, so it's not clear whether the coin design will be minted. A spokesperson says a final design has not been selected. It is day 5 of the government shutdown, and lawmakers have made no progress in negotiations to fund the government. House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries appeared on NBC's Meet the Press today. Jeffries spoke about finding bipartisan common ground. Johnson also urged Democrats to support the GOP-crafted spending bill. Reductions in the federal workforce are imminent, and the House has suspended vote until the Senate breaks the deadlock. Our Washington correspondent Luis Adoro Martinez has the latest from Capitol Hill.
All around the country right now, real pain is being endured by real people because the Democrats have decided to play politics. We have troops and TSA agents and Border Patrol agents who are working without pay, protecting the country. And you have FEMA services, health insurance policies, for example, that are being stalled in the middle of a hurricane season because the Democrats want to play political games and try to obscure the real facts at issue.
Senate Democrats have voted for a fourth time against a bill that would extend current levels of government funding and end a shutdown. Democrats, who are in the minority in the House and the Senate, have demanded that their healthcare policy priorities be approved and parts of the Republican reconciliation bill be repealed for them to support any effort to reopen the government.
The fact of the matter is that the big, ugly bill, as Trump has continued to implement it, is absolutely gutting healthcare research all around this nation.
Republicans have agreed to negotiate with Democrats on healthcare policy, but not while the government is shut down. Republicans have rejected repealing parts of the reconciliation bill they passed earlier this summer that closed the loophole that allowed for illegal immigrants to access taxpayer-funded healthcare.
We challenge them. We challenge them to tell us why they're not trying to give illegal aliens healthcare again when they put it in their own bill.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is facing criticism for past comments he made regarding government shutdowns. As early as March, Schumer rejected government shutdowns.
What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down, I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way? It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation, of paralysis. Shutting down government over a policy difference is self-defeating. We can never hold American workers hostage.
The pressure is now on rank-and-file Senate Democrats. There have been already 3 Senate Democrats who have broken with leadership to support Republicans to reopen the government. Those are Senator John Fetterman, Angus King, and Catherine Cortez Masto.
We have a majority of senators, 55 senators, have already voted for this clean, short-term, nonpartisan CR. As the Speaker said, no policy riders, no gimmicks, nothing in here that benefits Republicans. This is a straight-up 7-week funding resolution, and we need it to keep the government open. And
the Senate will vote again on Monday on a continuing resolution to reopen government. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Donald Trump has decided not to let the government shutdown interfere with a stop in Norfolk, Virginia this afternoon. There he saluted the Navy as it celebrates its 250th anniversary. Here are the highlights from President Trump.
We're gathered on this storied waterfront to celebrate 250 years of strength, tenacity, and unwavering courage by the greatest fighting force even, and that's true, no matter where you go, no matter what you even think about, there's nothing like the fighting force that we have. Docked beside us today are a combined 150,000 tons of pure American naval supremacy, and 2 colossal reasons why no one should ever want to start a fight with the USA. Every tyrant and adversary on the planet knows their choice is very simple. It's leave America in peace or be blown up in fire and fury never seen before. In recent weeks, the Navy has supported our mission to blow the cartel terrorists the hell out of the water. You see that? Every one of those boats is responsible for the death of 25,000 American people and the destruction of families. The U.S. Navy always stands for America. As your commander-in-chief, I will always stand for you. I promise you that. You know that. That's why you voted for me in numbers that nobody's ever seen before. And I want you to know that despite the current Democrat-induced shutdown, we will get our service members every last penny. Don't worry about it.
It's a landmark celebration of American sea power over the last 2.5 centuries at the world's largest naval base in Norfolk, Virginia. About 20,000 sailors and Gold Star family members joined the event. Trump says that the U.S. will expand the Navy with at least 19 new vessels next year, including submarines, destroyers, assault ships, and more. As the Chinese Communist Party marks 76 years of rule, Chinese people in the U.S. and worldwide are protesting its brutality and tyranny. Let's hear their stories and what they are standing up for. NTD's Flora Hua has the report.
This is the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C. Chinese pro-democracy activists across America gathered to tell the world October 1st is not their national day, but a day of mourning for all of China. During times of peace, tens of millions of Chinese people have died under the CCP's tyranny. From the violent political campaigns and the Great Famine to the Tiananmen Massacre and the COVID-19 pandemic, these Chinese protesters marched in front of the Chinese embassy, Capitol Hill, and the White House. Younger generations also took part in the anti-CCP movement, raising awareness of the Chinese regime's tactics.
On one hand, the CCP maintains authoritarian rule through repression. On the other hand, it uses united front tactics to deceive and divide us.
Moving north to Canada, Taiwanese, Hong Kongers, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and people from different backgrounds also held anti-CCP demonstrations in front of the Chinese consulate.
CCP lies, people die!
Falun Gong, a spiritual discipline originated in China, has been persecuted by the CCP for over 25 years. International rights groups report that the regime even steals organs from imprisoned practitioners for huge profits.
The CCP trades in live organs and continuously imprisons dissidents who oppose it. This, among other actions, represents the greatest harm that totalitarianism has inflicted on our present generation of human civilization.
Chinese people in Germany and the Netherlands are also calling for an end to the tyranny of the Chinese Communist Party. Flora Hua, NTD News.
Coming up, a trafficking investigator and a survivor join us to unpack the 2025 Trafficking in Persons report. Find out who the worst offenders are and what needs to be done to end this nightmare practice. And a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine shares details about the link between the body's energy flow and mental and physical health. More on why he calls modern depression medication a Band-Aid solution in just a minute here on NTD News. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Millions exploited, 13 countries called out, and an estimated $236 billion reaped from this horrific practice. The U.S. State Department just released new information on modern-day slavery. The report singled out China as one of the world's worst offenders, saying state-sponsored forced labor is widespread in China, with nearly 4 million people exploited there. Joining us to delve into the report and ways to end this atrocity are two guests. Dan Nash, a former law enforcement officer and trafficking investigator, and Andy Berger, founder and chair of Voices Against Trafficking. Thank you both so much for joining us. Now, Dan, a lot to unpack here, but first, what do you make of this latest report?
Thank you for having me. This report has been pretty consistent with previous reports. China has really been the leader in trafficking in the world for the last 10 to 15 years at least. And I honestly, unfortunately, don't see that stopping anytime soon.
And Andy, as a survivor yourself, how are you reacting to this report, especially that this is state-sponsored?
Well, thank you for having me as well, but I am not surprised. We've known this has been happening for quite some time, and as Dan said, we don't see it ending anytime soon unless there's definitive action, even by American companies that do business with China. There is no one saying enough. Genocide is human trafficking, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, all of that. China has been the leader for some time now.
And Dan, the report highlights the amount of profits these countries reap from this atrocious practice. Now, we did see the U.S. pass the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act as a direct response to the Chinese regime's systematic use of forced labor. But when it comes to holding these countries accountable, what needs to be done?
Well, really, we're not doing anything. I mean, you're talking just here in the United States, there's some 15,000 illicit massage businesses that are all Chinese organized crime. That's 30 to 60,000 victims just here in the United States that are Chinese victims being trafficked by Chinese organized crime. And we haven't done anything about that in the last 20 years. So, I mean, I would accept anything at this point as far as standing up and trying to stop, this onslaught of trafficking that's coming out of China.
And expanding on that, Andy, talk to us about the situation inside the U.S. because often trafficking is spoken about as if it's happening far away or in other countries. Now, you do have films like Sound of Freedom that highlight the fact it is also happening here in America. How do we bring awareness to the fact that it's happening, it's here now, without scaring people away from helping the voiceless?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Tiffany, because we want to get the truth out with hope and not terrify people. But at the same time, we also have to understand every 40 seconds in the US, a child 18 years or under is abducted. That means they are taken or lured into something that looks safe. And within 48 hours, will be in a trafficking ring or some other kind of criminal activity, but basically sex trafficking. The other part of it is people need to understand that one victim is sold anywhere from 20 to 25 times a day. Imagine a 10-year-old child. Okay, so, or a 12-year-old or a 16-year-old, anyone being sold that many times and being drugged and forced against their will into shameful activities. But to your other point, what we can do is one, say, okay, maybe I don't know enough about this. Let's get educated. Organizations like DAN's or Voices Against Trafficking, we can help. We can get training. We can help educate parents how to have conversations at age appropriate levels so that their kids, it goes beyond stranger danger. We need to really have a conversation about what human trafficking may mean in that particular family situation, and also enforce the laws that we already have on the books, Tiffany. We are not doing our job as citizens, whether it's local, state, or federal. One act of human trafficking, if you're convicted, should carry 20 years federally. But we're inconsistent when we have celebrities, we've seen the stories, and all of their sentences are different. Why is that?
And on the note of education, Dan, when it comes to emerging technologies like, say, AI, there's pros and cons. AI can help detect and flag harmful content across social media, analyze online ads and languages to help law enforcement, but it can also be used as a tool by criminal networks with, say, deepfakes, etc. Talk to us about how law enforcement is navigating this new era of AI.
I honestly think we should just keep it even more simple than that. So the dirty secret about human trafficking in America is that only about 17% of law enforcement are trained at all in human trafficking. And if you break that down between skills-based training and awareness-based training, you're talking less than 10%. People think that the law enforcement has got all this training when it comes to human trafficking. And as I travel around the country and teach law enforcement every single week, what I see over and over and over is that they are not trained. And it's not just the small agencies. It's not just the small police departments, the small sheriff's departments. It's some of our largest agencies in our country. And I'll just use this agency as an example, not because I'm trying to throw anybody under the bus, but because everybody knows them. The FBI, for example, everybody knows the FBI. They do, they're our federal law enforcement agency. They have no training in human trafficking, zero, not in 1 minute. So when an FBI agent leaves their academy to go be an FBI agent somewhere, they don't have any human trafficking training. And then we wonder why we're not successful. But it's across the board with almost all of our federal agents, almost all of our law enforcement. How do we expect to stop human trafficking when the police don't know what to do?
And Andy, from that more educational perspective, how are you viewing the pros and cons of AI and what that means for countering trafficking?
Well, we take a look at what internet is right now with over 1 million predators a day looking for your niece, your nephew, your child, someone that they can use as a human product and make money off of, or even depravity. That's part of human trafficking too. As a survivor myself in the early 60s, I went through that. I understood that part. Dan is absolutely right. We don't have the training, in law enforcement that we should. When I was at the FBI Academy and I did some training, it was amazing how many of those agents were completely unaware of what to do. So that definitely needs to be fixed. But the pros and cons on AI, internet, as I said, is a dangerous area. AI is even more scary because it can actually capture your voice, Tiffany, or my voice, or Dan's, and it can definitely create what looks like a false safe zone for kids, for adults, for young women at college. And so you're not really sure who that person is because AI is just that good. So we need to treat that as a volatile technological advancement.
We have seen some concerning stories in that area. Dan, in terms of solutions here, Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying in a statement that this report ensures that those who fail to act face consequences. Now, that includes passing new laws, prosecuting traffickers, protecting victims, and preventing crimes. But in your view, what do the consequences need to look like to end this horrific practice?
Well, I think if we actually have pretty good laws in the United States. The problem that I see is that we're just not investigating things properly and thoroughly, and we're missing so many things because law enforcement just doesn't know what to do. And then sometimes when we get cases, and recently there's been a whole bunch of talk about the P. Diddy case and the fact that he wasn't prosecuted or convicted of trafficking. Well, there's a whole host of reasons that could be. Could be that the prosecutors didn't do what they were supposed to do. Could be that the police were not trained and didn't know what they were supposed to do. Could be that he just didn't do it. I mean, who knows? None of us were there. But what I see over and over and over again is people jumping to conclusions when I think we should just keep it much more simple. How about we just train the police? We give them the tools that they need. They will then go and investigate. And more so than any other country anywhere in the world, we actually have a pretty good justice system and we actually have pretty good laws, but they're not going to be efficient as much as they should be if we're not doing those proper investigations to get those perpetrators up to the point where they need to be prosecuted and convicted and then go to prison for a really long time.
And on that note, Andy, how can survivors be first protected and then empowered to share their stories and help put a stop to this practice?
Well, first of all, they have to be listened to. It's very rare when a survivor is taken at their word the first time around. And what people don't realize is for the person who has been victimized, whether as a child or older, it is a life sentence for that victim. My last predator just died 8 months ago. And that was like 40 years ago that all of that happened. So it is a life sentence. So I feel that if you're convicted, you get a life sentence. I don't care if you're in isolation, as long as you never get out of jail. You don't get the perks, you don't get early release. And for those who say, oh, that's, inhumane, well, think about the person whose innocence, whose livelihood, whose ability to function normally in society has been affected. You can't replace that. You can't give me the 17 years of my childhood back. And so we want to protect them. So for survivors, one, we need to listen, no matter how young they are. And then verify, as Dan said, investigate. Let's find out what the truth is, and then figure out how to help that child or that victim, male or female, doesn't matter what gender, what socioeconomic background. If you are a human being and you have been exploited, that should be something that's a priority for every community to weigh in on, and for communities to learn to receive survivors. They need job skills. They need support emotionally and mentally. And most importantly, they all have PTSD, and that needs to be addressed.
Well, Andy Berger, Dan Nash, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Coming up, a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine shares details about the link between the body's energy flow and mental and physical health. More on why he calls modern depression medication a Band-Aid solution. And an entrepreneur is bringing new life to a bright yellow symbol of pride for the island of Taiwan. Banana plants are now being spun into a sustainable fabric for making clothes and shoes. More details in just a minute after this quick break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A search for family members sheds light on the shocking practice of forced organ harvesting in China. An award-winning documentary detailing the crime against humanity was presented in Washington, D.C. this week. NTD's Sam Wong was at the screening of State Organs to hear from the film crew and the audience.
This isn't a China problem, it's a communism problem.
On Friday, DC's Rotary Satellite Club hosted a screening of the award-winning documentary State Organs. The film delves into the stories of two families in China that spent more than 2 decades searching for their missing relatives. They discovered along the way a state-backed organ harvesting scheme that targets a large percentage of the population.
There was a case about this young lady, eyes wide open, and they're actually going to remove her eye. That is insane. It's not some local guy in the back room somewhere in China. This is the highest level of government.
A main target of this human rights violation is Falun Gong, a spiritual practice based on the tenets of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Since 1999, practitioners of Falun Gong or Falun Dafa have been subjected to a nationwide persecution campaign. Along with mass incarceration and torture, China saw an explosion of organ transplants during the persecution, thus despite not having a voluntary organ donation system. In 2019, the UK's China Tribunal found that Falun Gong practitioners are likely the primary victims of forced organ harvesting.
It's estimated that about 60,000 to 90,000 transplants are done a year by the CCP. We estimate that about every 30 minutes someone is killed for their organs right now at this moment. So as we speak or as we watch the movie, 2 to 3 people were killed.
Audience members said they're shocked by the sheer brutality and scale of this human rights violation.
This whole idea of medical tourism, which has become a $1 billion or $1 trillion industry, because it's scaring me now.
I would like to see the government not allow individuals here in the United States to be able to go to China to receive a transplant.
There is no waiting list.
Earlier this year, the U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed the Falun Gong Protection Act, a bipartisan bill aimed at sanctioning anyone involved in China's acts of forced organ harvesting. The bill now awaits action in the Senate. If passed, it will become law once signed by the president.
After the Holocaust, during the World War II, people kept saying, never again, never again. But now it had happened again. The difference is, today, while we still have time to stop this crime against humanity, we still have an opportunity to change the course of history.
Sam Wang, NTD News, Washington, D.C.
A physical attack is easy to identify, but what about an attack on your body's energy? Seen from the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, what we call depression has deeper roots in the body's energy flow. In this episode of Vital Signs, Dr. Jingduan Yang, an American psychiatrist and doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, joined Brendan Fallon to discuss the link between the body's energy flow and mental and physical health.
For millennia, what we call depression and other mental distress have been seen by traditional Chinese medicine, aka TCM, as problems of energy flow interruption, and hence the use of systems like acupuncture to treat them through stimulating energy flow. As these methods gain scientific validation, we see them integrated more and more into Western medicine, with acupuncture even being used by the US Air Force for battlefield pain management. But what is the body's energy flow as understood by TCM? Does it overlap with the energy our cells produce from food? What would cause this energy flow to be disrupted to bring depression and mental distress? And what can be done energetically and even on a deeper emotional level to get things moving again? Today, I welcome back Dr. Jingduan Yang to lend his wisdom to these and other questions of energy and mental health. Dr. Yang is a psychiatrist and integrative medicine doctor who combines Western medicine and holistic medicine. He also represents the 5th generation of his family line to practice TCM. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthier from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendan Fallon. Dr. Yang, fantastic to have you join us on Vital Signs again.
Thank you for having me, Brendan.
One of the main reasons I wanted to ask you on, Dr. Yang, is a comment you made about how important the energetic aspect is to our mental health. And I know you look at health from this 4-dimensional model of biochemical, structural, energetic, and spiritual. But for starters, I'm interested to know a snapshot of where the energetic aspect fits in to this 4-dimensional model that you have.
Thank you for the question. And if we really think about what depression is or what depression manifests, we can look at, decreased interests and have lack of the ability to feel the pleasure. And then the fatigue and the lack of concentration and change of appetite and trouble with sleep and have some passive or active suicidal thoughts and feeling shame and guilty and blaming self and so on and so forth. If you look at all these symptoms, they are manifestation of problem with either thoughts or feelings or physical activities. And this is all really manifestation of energy. And the thoughts are energies, the feeling emotions are energies, and the physical behaviors and energy levels. So they're really a problem to begin with, is manifest as energetic level. So when we are facing energetic problems, we have to understand that from the energetic level. Of course, the modern medicine started, relatively new, and it started by understanding human anatomy and the body structure, which is great, which is important that we understand how the human body is made of and materialistically. And the second is about chemistry. So we began to understand a lot of nuance of the biochemical ingredients and the biochemical process and what involved in the biochemical balance. And that's where we understand that now the psychiatry almost like therapy-wise downgraded from understanding it from the spiritual and energetic level to the biochemical level. And now we prescribe a medication that disrupts the biochemical process to generate artificial effects to make people feel different, and which works for some people. But in the long run, the chronic use of biochemical intervention that is caused by energetic problems and even spiritual problems, and will not going to give us long-term benefits.
It's kind of a Band-Aid solution for many
yes,
people.
Band-Aid solution, and also it can cause new problems.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Coming up, an entrepreneur is bringing new life to a bright yellow symbol of pride for the island of Taiwan. More on how banana plants are being spun into a sustainable fabric for making clothes and shoes. And Earth's gentle giants are getting a helping hand from science. Find out how a new vaccine developed at Chester Zoo can prevent a deadly disease that kills endangered elephants. That and more after this quick break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A deep dive into the ocean allowed scientists to snap pics of some never-before-seen marine activity, plus an incredible discovery off of Florida's Treasure Coast. Let's dive in.
Take a look at this bonus find. The team documenting the wreckage of the former USS Barron. The destroyer, commissioned in 1943, saw heavy action during World War II, then transferred to Uruguay by the U.S. in 1952 and scuttled in 1995 during a naval exercise, and it's been at the bottom of the ocean ever since. Another group of underwater explorers hit the jackpot, finding not fish, but hidden treasure. Queen Jewels LLC claims to have recovered more than $1 million worth of silver and gold coins off of Florida's aptly named Treasure Coast. Reportedly, the riches are from the Treasure Fleet shipwreck. History time. In 1715, the fleet was lost while carrying literal boatloads of booty, as much as $400 million of gold, silver, and jewels, enough to make a pirate go, "Arrgh!" The company says many of the pieces still have identifiable date and mint markers. They'll undergo conservation and then be displayed at museums for visitors to enjoy.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame just got a new star. Actress, producer, and writer Lauren Graham received the honor Friday.
This was not on any bucket list I ever made, even the secret ones. And I'm just so moved, and my niece just wants to know why I can't take it with me. She doesn't understand why I would have to leave my reward on the sidewalk.
Graham is an award-winning actress, best known for her role on the television shows Gilmore Girls and Parenthood. Gilmore Girls got a reboot and a limited Netflix series in 2016. The 58-year-old is also a New York Times best-selling author. Graham has appeared on Broadway and will play a part in the upcoming movie Reminders of Him. Friday's ceremony included guest speaker Amy Sherman-Palladino, Gilmore Girls creator. And now to Ireland, where a master blacksmith is offering visitors a hands-on glimpse into the country's Celtic past. His farm sits on land that was once home to Ireland's High Kings. Here's a closer look.
In the shadows of Ireland's ancient hill of Tara, a master blacksmith is reviving Celtic traditions. Once a design engineer, after the COVID-19 pandemic, Tom King traded in his 20-year career to guide visitors through the living history in the Boyne Valley.
It's blueberries with...
King, or An Goa to his guests, dons the traditional attire, teaching ironworking techniques, telling stories by firelight, and walking through woods on the roads to Tara, located 25 miles northwest of Dublin.
We have tangible things you can taste and touch, smell and feel, and that's a big difference versus just standing at a monument and 10 minutes, well, it's time to go.
King believes the myths, tales and painstakingly learned ironwork craft should be protected and passed on to the next generation. While its landscapes, heritage and hospitality remain central to Ireland's tourist offering, King's Forge is a growing trend of people seeking physical experiences as a break from the digital world.
And yet we have all this technology at our disposal, but yet there's so much unhappiness. So there's a kind of a circle where people are going back to basics.
And Sunday brings an occasion for all of you proud bookworms out there. It's National Bookshop Day. The celebration started across the pond in England. It's a time to kick off the fall book-selling season and the release of new books ahead of the holidays. It's also a good day for bookshop owners to host parties, book signings, and other events at their stores. According to nationaltoday.com, upwards of 1,000 bookshops nationwide participate in Bookshop Day. Taiwan is now the world's top producer of advanced microchips, but the island once had a different source of patriotic pride: bananas. Now, a Taiwanese entrepreneur is turning the fruit into fabric, spinning banana plants into a sustainable textile for making clothes and shoes. Here's that story.
Nelson Yang's Taiwan-based company is called Farm to Material. It turns banana fibers into textiles.
Back in 2008, European sneaker brands told us that they were hoping to find a way for food and materials to be produced in parallel, meaning that food and materials are yielded from the same land. So we've been working based on that concept. What we're doing now is making sure that all our material sources come from food or leftovers from agriculture or the food industry. We then transform those leftovers into usable materials.
Taiwan was renowned for its fruit under Japanese colonial rule from 1895 to 1945, especially pineapples and bananas. And in the 1960s, the island branded itself the Banana Kingdom to boost exports.
What we hope to achieve in the future is a fully natural shoe, where every part of the shoe is made from natural materials such as lignocellulose biomass, plant-based proteins, or animal-based proteins. Because with this kind of shoe, when it's buried, it will completely break down into glucose and become nutrients for plants. That's our ultimate goal.
Young's company uses the middle section of the banana plant, known as the pseudostem, which is normally abandoned in the field after harvest.
After we collect the materials, we bring them to our facility, where they go through a process of crushing and pressing, followed by sterilization and fermentation. Then we proceed with degumming and drying, which gives us the fibers.
Banana fiber actually performs better than regular cotton in terms of water consumption, absorbency, and supply stability, making it highly promising for future applications. However, to break into the international market, it still needs third-party certifications.
Some of the fibers are turned into yarn that can be blended with cotton to make socks and can also be turned into vegan leather. Young's company is still in the early stages with no current orders from apparel companies, but he hopes to one day supply global sneaker brands.
Earth's gentle giants are getting a helping hand from science. Leading scientists at Chester Zoo, the University of Surrey, and the Animal and Plant Health Agency have developed a new vaccine that can prevent a deadly disease that kills endangered elephants. The breakthrough was published Friday in the prestigious journal Nature Communications. The vaccine targets EEHV, a disease that can kill elephants in just 24 hours. It's the leading cause of death among young Asian elephants, a species already listed as endangered on the IUCN Red List. The study spanned 6 years and involved a small group of elephants. The next phase could see more elephants involved, the priority being young ones who are most at risk of the disease. Researchers involved in the study called it a critical turning point, saying until now, EEHV has been a silent killer. With this vaccine, we finally have a weapon to fight back. The vaccine is given via injection with booster doses, making it ideal for use in zoos and sanctuaries, with plans underway to develop delivery methods suitable for wild populations. And that's all for today's news. Round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.